So I've got absolutely no idea how to start this video, so I'm gonna go off script for now. It's been merely a few hours since Blaster Master 03 was announced at the time I'm writing and recording this, and I've had several scripts finished and footage recorded. But I'm putting all of those on hold for now, because I really want to talk about Blaster Master. I've had this video planned for over a year now, and this is the perfect time for me to actually go through with it. So I hope you're excited, because it's time to go commit mutant genocide. The original Blaster Master by Sunsoft, or Shouwakusei Senki Metafight as it's known in Japan, is a Metroidvania that was first released in 1988, only 2 years after the original Metroid, and a year after Castlevania 2. Thus not only predating the term, but also being arguably amongst the first of its kind. But much like anything else released in the 80s, there's only two ways a corpse can be dealt with. The first option is to hide the corpse deep underground where it will be eaten by bugs and the local Turkish people, only to be found by some schizophrenic grave robbers like 4 decades later. And the second option is to artificially recreate it to show the modern masses that we really haven't made progress at all in these past million years. Sunsoft did the latter and remade the game. Twice. Technically 3 times, but we'll get to that later. The first of these remakes is Blaster Master Overdrive, a WiiWare game released in 2010. And I would go deeper into it, but just look at it. It's horrible. The backgrounds look like they use stock photos, it controls really floaty and unresponsive, and the sprites are awful. The music is fun enough, but I'd rather move on before I decide to stab my eyes out with a cold cucumber. Cut to 2017, and the release of Inti Creates' Blaster Master Zero. A second remake of the first game that reboots the timeline and mixes all 3 of its storylines together. And before we move on, I have to address said story. So bear with me here. This is gonna be needlessly dumb and complicated. So in Japan, the game follows a man named Kane Gardner, who in his tank, the Metal Attacker, attempts to fight off evil intergalactic invaders on the planet Sophia the The English release, on the other hand, is about as far removed from Space Wars as fun is removed from Devil May Cry 2's gameplay. So in the English version, there's this guy called Jason and his pet frog, Fred, who touches a radioactive barrel filled with chemicals from the water which makes him mutate and turn gay, before fleeing underground and polluting the entire ecosystem with homolust. Then he randomly finds a tank called Sophia the which he knows how to pilot for reasons, and then he goes to kill his frog. Oh, and then there's the third story for the game, which was featured in the Worlds of Power novelization. But here's the thing, unlike the other Worlds of Power novels, like Ninja Gaiden, this one would eventually be adapted into a game, that being Blaster Master Blasting Again, which we will be covering later in the video. Now for Blaster Master Zero. Being yet another remake of an NES game, Inti Creates had little to no room to turn this fresh homemade lasagna into an organic Lunchable. Well, considering Overdrive is a thing they did, but I pretend it isn't. If you don't know Inti, then basically think of them as the retro-looking 2D guys. They made the absolutely brilliant Mega Man Zero and ZX games, the fantastic Gunvolt series, classic Mega Man 9 and 10, and the 8-bit Bloodstained games. So giving a team like them the Blaster Master IP seems like a total no-brainer. And well, it certainly is fun enough. But first things first. After the disastrous release of Cyberpunk 2077, the Earth decides that it has had enough of mankind's bullshit and goes back into hibernation. Cut to like 100 years later, and this dude named Jason finds a frog whom he names Fred, after his favorite extinct YouTuber. After autistically inspecting the green fucker, because apparently frogs went extinct or some shit, Fred escapes underground, and there Jason finds Sophia the Then later on Jason meets Eve, an amnesiac schizophrenic, and in the end it turns out Fred was actually an alien all along. Eve is an android, and Jason has to kill a mutant demon king so he can penetrate Eve's silicon-layered pussy. Make sense to you? No? Me neither. Only very little has changed here from the original, and what did change is mostly quality of life shit. This goes for both level design and enemies and core mechanics. So I'll be treating this game as the basis and standards for everything to come. We clear? Awesome. As I said earlier, this game is a Metroidvania, but it's a very linear one. You can't really sequence break it or do things out of order, and the game has a very strict stage-esque layout. But of course, it wouldn't be a Metroidvania if you didn't get to use new abilities in older areas to reach secrets and even more upgrades that let you find even more stuff. Just that it has the added bonus of making it impossible to get lost, pretty much ever. Even the map keeps the area-specific theming, by giving you one small map for every area you're currently in, instead of one giant one for every area in the game, like, say, Castlevania. Gameplay is split into two sections, the side-scrolling areas in which you control the Sophia, or Jason, and the overhead sections. Think of it in a similar manner as the different sections in Genpei Tumaden. And if you haven't played that, then, I don't fucking know, get fucked! First things first, the side-scrolling sections. Something you've probably already noticed from the footage is that the Sophia is really floaty, and there's a weird delay to the jump. At first it can be really irritating, but you'll get the hang of it quickly. The same goes for Jason, but I recommend avoiding jumps as him as much as possible. As Jason is a white person, and his fragile bones will disintegrate into dust the picosecond his little toe hits the ground after jumping from a height bigger than the average Timorese woman. The other gameplay style though is where the game really shines. Here you play as just Jason and you shoot at mutants with a wide array of guns. In the original, these gun upgrades would always build upon one another and functioned more as regular upgrades than different weapons. You were basically just switching from a Glock to a slightly faster Glock to a revolver and so on. Get hit and your gun reverts back to the last stage. So Zero doesn't do that, instead opting for upgrades you can freely switch between. Getting hit will still make you lose the weapon, but you'll find much more gun upgrades in this game than the original. Too bad that all but 3 of those weapons are fucking useless, especially the flamethrower. Not only is this thing slow as fuck all, but it also has the spread of the Doom-free shotgun, which is an atrocity. At the very least, it's still fun to experiment with everything. Oh, and also you have bombs, so that's cool. All in all, these segments are really fun, but much like any good-looking woman, they've got more issues than just their guns. For one, they're often pretty empty and everything's kind of slow. But they also often have these gimmick sections where you're supposed to just stand still and wait for a thing to happen, which really breaks the pace at times. However, the game makes up for it with these fun ambushes that sometimes happen when you enter a room, and when I say fun, I mean they're really fun. These areas are also where you'll find most of your upgrades and area maps, and you're going to need to collect all of those to get the true ending. And you are going to want to go for it, as that's the only way to play through the last area, which is arguably the best one in the game. The music's really good too, and you're hearing some right now in the background. The original game didn't really have that many songs, and the rearrangements of those songs here are great, but the new songs are by far a highlight. I can't get enough of that title theme, it's fantastic. There's also special playable characters, those being Shantae, Shovel Knight, Gunvolt, and Ekuro from Galgun. All have unique abilities and are really fun, and Gunvolt and Ekuro are actually bundled in with the Steam release, but you're gonna need to buy Shovel Knight and Shantae. Though both Zero games are generally just $10, 5 on sale, which they go on often, so you should absolutely pick them up. Sadly, I'm playing the 3DS release, so I don't get any of those, because I'm too cheap to buy the DLCs. There's also the Switch exclusive Blaster Battle mode, which is basically a local PvP, and it's pretty fun, yeah. And that about wraps it up for the original Blaster Master. After this game, Sunsoft decided that the only logical thing was to make a sequel, and yeah, they made like 4 of them. I don't even know where to start with this without getting a headache, so let's just go through them in release order. First on the list is Blaster Master Jr. for the Game Boy. A game where you once again play as Jason, but this time it's all from a top-down point of view, and it plays more like a Bomberman game than Blaster Master, and it's linear and stage-based, and you don't even have the Sophia. You know, basically the biggest part that makes Blaster Master, well, Blaster Master. Yeah, this is gonna need some explaining. So remember when I said I would be covering all the Blaster Master games? Well, that was kind of a lie. So you see, before there was Epic War Crimes Against Aliens and Innocent Animal Simulator, there was a little game called Robowarrior. Now, Robowarrior is a Bomberman spin-off by Hudson, co-developed by ICOM, that was the foundation for the original Blaster Master. So what's this game got to do with Blaster Master outside of being its inspiration? Well, when Sunsoft were localizing the sequel to Robowarrior by ICOM, they turned it into Blaster Master Jr., because Hudson still owned the Robowarrior name in the West, making Robowarrior part of the Blaster Master series. I can only imagine how the thought process for this shit must have been like. They probably huffed a bunch of gasoline and then overdosed on Tylenol or some shit. I don't fucking know. Can you even overdose on Tylenol? Hold up, I'm gonna need to hit up my sources real quick. What was I again? Oh right, Blast Child. So what you do in this game is you go run around the stage a bunch until you find a key, sometimes entering areas where I don't even know what the fuck is going on here, to be honest. And then you go to the exit. Sometimes you fight a boss, and yeah, that's basically it. The music's alright, I guess, but what else you want me to say? The way the water works is funny, I guess. You have to quickly get to the other side or else you'll drown, but other than that, there's really nothing else to say. So, I don't wanna do this. Please, can I just skip this game? It's just... Fine. Here. You check it out and tell me what the fuck you think this feels like to play. This is Blaster Master 2, not made by Sunsoft, and only ever released in North America. It was made by some studio called fucking, Software Creations? That's a name I've never heard of before. Wait, hold on. Software Creation, Blaster Master 2 rating, Creation, claims to this match, claims to the form of separation, British. Of fucking course it was made by British people! Who else would condone such atrocities of game design? Fucking Christ, it all makes sense! Fuck! I don't think I have to touch up on the music, right? It's about as good as banging a dildo against 3 pots would sound like, while a gay couple is having some extremely rough sex in the background. The visuals don't fare much better, and despite being a British subhuman, Blaster Man jumps very, very, very high in this game, but fall damage still applies, and you get brutally delimbed for jumping any higher than your own body size. Everything feels so fucking floaty in this game, and the over-the-top sections have been replaced with whatever the fuck this is. And while there are overhead sections in this game, you play them as Sophia and not Jason. The game lets you select how many continues you want right at the gate, and you can pick up power-ups, like this thunder thingy. It generally tries to be more arcade-like, but why would you want this? Does literally anyone at all, want to play something that sounds and looks like something that a rat would shit out in its final living moments? Yeah, me neither, so, it's time to go. Okay, so remember how earlier I said there were technically 3 remakes of the original? This is what I was talking about. So Enemy Below is a sequel to the original and the first real Blaster Master game since, yeah. It only took them 11 years. Well, at least we got 2 of them. First things first. Enemy Below reused a lot of sprites from the original and plays identically to it. The stages look similar to it as well, and it's generally more of the same, which is not at all a bad thing. There's really nothing more to say about it. It's on the 3DS eShop if you're interested, so yeah, give it a try, I guess. It's about as good as a Blaster Master game on Game Boy Color sounds. Blaster Master Blasting Your Mom is a third-person action game, Metroidvania, epic game, 3D tank, off-the-road racing, come bucket adventure, off in the cold, off on hot, eat the food, yes! With the most 90s intro imaginable! As previously mentioned, this game adapts the Worlds of Power novel adaptation of the original into a sequel. Meet Jason and Eve's children, Roddy and Elfie. Their parents are dead, but they've got a cool tank and are ready to kick some mutant butt. Hey! Enough about the boring shit. Where are the guns? Oh, there they are. So with this being a third-person tank shooter, I can only really compare it to Ghost in the Shell on PS1. Minus lock-on. Or the Spider-Man wall driving. Or the absurd speeds. It's really fun though. Now, because you're driving in a tank and it's a PS1 3D game, you gotta have them tank controls. Though they're surprisingly functional in this kind of environment, probably because the game is actually designed around them. As per usual, you go around committing several acts of racially aggravated genocide against extraterrestrial species, peacefully advocating that mutant rights are human rights and mutant lives matter. And then you find new upgrades and do the same in even more places. The level design can be annoying at times, but you'll usually find your way around things pretty easily. Though unlike the other games, I can't exactly guarantee that you won't get lost here. Mainly due to the new perspective. For being one of the earliest 3D Metroidvanias, I'd say it does a bang-out job. Really now. Bonus points for actually playing like a video game instead of a Linux boot up. But obviously we're not done here. Can't have Blaster Master with just a Sophia. It's like having a sandwich without bread, or terrorist attacks without the sociopathic conspiracy theories. And man, did they nail the on-foot sections in this game. Yeah, it plays really well, doesn't have tank controls, and lets you actually move the camera, but my god. The weapons are the star of the show here. Hell, they might even be my favorites in the series. Unlike the original and Enemy Below, these aren't just gun upgrades, but full-on different weapons with different properties, like in Zero. Though you still can't swap between them, like in Zero. Instead being locked to whichever stage you're currently on. These sections can be seen kind of like a middle piece between the overhead sections in the original and Zero. But one thing this game has over both of them is that every weapon is actually fucking useful for once. The pre-final stages are goddamn grenade launchers, and they're so satisfying to use. And the final one is a fucking flamethrower, yeah! See this, Inti? This is how you make a flamethrower. Big range, big power, makes shit die real nice and crispy. Not whatever the fuck that piss blaster in Zero was supposed to be, okay? Keep that shit to yourself. Oh, and keep Roddy and Elfie in mind when you play Zero too. Things will both make a lot more and less sense if you do. You'll see what I mean when you get there. All in all, this game makes me wetter than an anime fan on prom night. GameSpot gave it a 7.7 out of 10, so it's clearly on par with masterpieces like Imagine, Party Babies. Highly recommended. Oh boy, oh yeah, this is what I've been waiting for. Before I go into why this game is so good, let me just make one thing really clear right off the gate. This game is so good that I went back to get footage and accidentally beat it in its entirety in one sitting. Twice. Yeah, it's that good. So after the events of the last game, Eve got Robo-Mutant AIDS and it turned her into a furry. So Jason doesn't like that, and because there is no cure for cancer on Earth, he goes to the only place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism in search of a cure for feline AIDS. But of course, the story is just a side dish. You can see it while playing the game for yourself. But why should you even play it in the first place? Well, because it's fucking good! Visually, not much has changed from the first game, but that may give you the illusion that this is just more of the same, and yeah, that couldn't be farther from the truth. You see, the game has so many small quality of life improvements and new mechanics that it's not even comparable. First up, everything is faster now. The entire game has gotten a significant speed boost, which isn't nearly as noticeable in the footage as it is when actually playing the game. And both the Sophia and Jason get dash abilities later on that allow for even faster traversal of areas. And whilst on the subject, the new and improved Gaia Sophia now has a feature that automatically regenerates energy supply after falling from high places. Though Jason will still die if he as much as stubs his toe. Instead of one big map split into several areas, there are now 7 different planets you can visit with their unique gimmicks. Maps also function differently now, as they now unlock smaller planetoids with their own unique sets of challenges and rewards. Is it a lot more linear than the first game? I guess, but it makes up for it by being way more fucking fun. By the end of the game, the Sophia is as mobile as ever and you get to dash and wall jump and float anywhere and... oh, chef's kiss. So good and just so fun to traverse the different planets. Jason 2 got a big ass upgrade and fuck me, he's just so fun to play now. Permanently added to his arsenal is this funky counter thing. Just press the Y button whenever it shows up on screen and BAM! It's as easy as that, but it goes a long way to help making the combat not get stale. Not long into the game, you also get a dash variant and just look at the footage and tell me it doesn't look fun. The weapons are also a lot better now, and I got some use out of all of them at least once in this playthrough. And the final weapon, the wave shot, is a fucking monster. But as usual, getting hit means you'll lose it. Using one of the stronger weapons too much will also cause them to overheat, exponentially decreasing their hit radius, so you always want to make sure not to overdo it when you don't need to. Being completely original, Inti had free reign over the world, characters and music, and holy fuck did they do an amazing job. The OST is some really fucking good shit, and the characters are all fun. Mostly. By far my favorite battles though are the ones against the upper metal attackers and the pilots. They're incredibly fun and I frankly wish there were more of them. You're also going to need to do the side quests for them to get the true ending, and you're gonna want to do that as the final area is once again hidden behind it, and some of, if not the best part of the game is hidden behind that area, so yeah. I won't showcase it though, because it's really good, but hey, it's $10, 300 megabytes on Steam. Go get it if you haven't already. Absolutely worth your time. Especially since it's really meaty too. Getting everything on my first time around took me around 9 hours and I was loving every second of it. Oh, and this happened on my first playthrough. Yeah, I got stuck up here and had to reload a save. I have no idea how that happened, but it's fucking hilarious. This game is probably one of my favorite indie games, and I put it up there with Mega Man 03, Gunvolt 2, and Luminous Avenger X. Once again, there was some DLC for this game, and playable are now Copen in his X incarnation, and Empress from Dragon Mark for Death. I have them both on Switch, and they're really fun and borderline break the game in half. And then there's Kana Racing Simulator, and just... why? Who asked for this? I'm just so confused at its very existence. I just don't even know anymore, so I'll just move on. So, that's it, huh? Zero 3 is underway and I'm pumped as hell. I'm interested to see where the story will go and what other improvements they'll make, and yeah, I'll definitely be there for it. Perhaps the series will continue, but for now, cheers. And do me a favor here. Have a fantastic fucking day. Oh, and before I forget it, my friend Tony recently uploaded a video about distorting personas and their meanings in Persona 4. I don't like that game, but I'm in the video, so you should totally go check that out. Okay, see ya.